Hello Commanders, Pro-Tah-Zzioh, back with a new video, and this time we're gonna discuss rush attacks. So we'll be covering what is a rush attack, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, and why do we do it. Okay. So, what is a rush attack? It's a fast, early, and a massive attack on the enemy base. And the goal of it is to end the battle immediately. So, when do this normally happen? It happens between the start of the battle up to the 10th minute mark. And how do we do it? So there's two types of rush attack. So it's an army rush and a base rush. We'll discuss about the army rush first since this is more common. So it's a combination of tier 1, 2, and 3 infantry mixed with tier 1 or 2 assault vehicles and either tier 1 area and special vehicle factories. In base rushes, it's construction yards going to the enemy base, building defensive buildings, barracks, and factories walls in the enemy base. And there's a video about that in my playlist. So where do we do it? It depends on the map. If it's a small map, go. If it's a big map, don't. On medium maps, it would depend on how you'd be able to scout the enemy. Why do it? It's the same boost time and effort. And it's also gonna give you a chance to win against stronger enemies if you get them unprepared, and if you have focus upgrades on early units, you can also do that. In terms of skill cards, there's nothing really specific. Everything has an effect to rush tactic, but the most that comes into mind would be the infantry attack and the unit durability. In terms of upgrades, the same. Everything matters. Use your most upgraded early units. So here's a few tips. So we'll discuss about fundamental scouting, use counter units in buildings, and know when to stop. So in terms of scouting, it's gonna let you know if a rush is viable, if the enemy is gonna rush you, and how to counter it. Counter units in buildings, here's a breakdown of how you'll be able to counter units or the army composition of your enemy. Okay, for defenses, if you're gonna do a building rush, here's the breakdown. Okay, so of course with all that talk, here's a battle replay. So it's against Andre 163, around 21 as well, and it's a 12-minute battle. Here we go. Okay, so we'll be fighting in the full isolation. I'll spawn on the upper left hand corner and he'll of course be on the lower right. This is a maneuvers battle, so there's 2 flags. If you capture those flags, it's gonna give you bonus resources and bonus damage if your units are within the flag radius. Okay, so just early shenanigans, barracks, triple barracks, double assault vehicle factory, since we're gonna go for a rush and we're gonna produce units to collect containers out there in the map. Okay, so we're gonna prioritize collecting the containers over the flags. Okay, so we got a hefty amount of containers, and as we can see, the enemy is marching towards my base with a handful of assaults. Okay, so we got that flag and we're gonna get this one too. Okay, the enemy is maneuvering his assaults over to the end of the map since I built my defensive towers in front. So those are sniper towers, very good against infantry. Too bad that the towers wouldn't be able to reach them, so I sent out a coyote, and while I'm busy, he went ahead and captured the flag on the lower left. And also, I already upgraded my barracks so that I'd have access to snipers, the tier 3 infantry of resistance. Very good versus any kind of infantry. Okay, it would depend on how you use them, of course. You can't place them in front of your army since they'll get annihilated by assaults and fire assaults or any fortresses. Okay, so we've now captured that flag on the lower left and we're going to proceed to attack the enemy. So I'm not really doing a pretty good control on my units here, since I was prioritizing control over the vehicles, and my snipers gets toasted by those fortresses. See what I mean? You don't leave your snipers there. You have to maneuver them properly so that they don't fall prey to any kind of enemy units. They have high damage output, but they don't have really high survivability, unlike their counterparts, the fire assaults. Okay, so we've recaptured both flags on the lower right, the lower left and on the upper right. So a little engagement here and there. So our unit composition is tier 2 and tier 3 infantry. We would have grenadiers and snipers, and then tier 1 and tier 2 assault vehicles such as the Coyote and the Armadillo. So the enemy has fortresses. The tier 1 assault vehicle, he's gonna produce hammers later on, the tier 2 assault vehicle, and majority of his infantry are heavy assaults, the tier 2 infantry. Okay, so tier 2 infantry is good versus any kind of vehicles. As you can see, they do so much damage against my armadillos and my coyotes. Even when the coyotes are anti-infantry, they still get killed off by heavy assaults. So our grenadiers are doing a good round on those fortresses, and the snipers are the ones dealing with the heavy assaults. I have my units rallied over to the front of the enemy base so that the reinforcements would be continuous. So I try to maneuver my units here and there so that the snipers and the grenadiers would have a higher chance of survivability. And as you can see, the enemy player is getting confused on which to come after first. So he tries to come after the coyotes on the lower right, which pulls the heavy assaults instead of having it attack the armadillos here in front of the base. Hammers are doing a pretty good job of pushing away my vehicles as well as the fortress, but this time we switched to using gold defensive boost, since below the 10th minute mark it gives up to 30% damage on all of your units. That's why it's more important to use the gold defense just below the 10-minute mark, especially if you're rushing. After this, we'll switch to common attack boost when it's already beyond the 10-minute mark. Okay, so we try to focus on the major threats, which are the fortresses, given that they kill off the infantry real fast. The snipers would be able to survive fairly against hammers and heavy assaults, but not against those fortresses. So we would have to reposition the snipers, move them a bit back in order to save them from the fortresses, because if those heavy assaults overrun our vehicles, then there's gonna be no one protecting the snipers from the fortresses or any kind of unit that tries to approach it. Okay, so we position those snipers really well at the back of the army, so our grenadiers are facing in front, as well as the armadillo, who's luring the enemy units away from the snipers. Okay, so we're gonna focus on anything that produces the threat on our army. So once we get the enemy army cleared off, we're gonna focus on destroying those factories as well as those barracks, since if they don't have any factory or barracks, then they won't be able to produce any kind of defenses or threats against our army. So one thing here that I noticed against the enemy is that he didn't attempt to produce a bunker or a rocket tower. If he successfully put down a bunker, then it's gonna be pretty hard for me to maneuver my units into his base, given that the bunker has high damage output, can easily kill off any infantry within its range, and it has very high survivability. It has high HP and high armor. Okay, so we were able to take care of the immediate threats, which were the barracks and the factories, and the enemy does not have anything else to defend his base with, so he ends up quitting the match, and we'll just take care of destroying his base. So a swift and fast attack, massive army composition into this rush attack, which helped us secure the victory. There you go. Victory. So leave a like and subscribe. Pro-Tah-Zzioh out. Good luck out there on the battlefield.